Lois Guillaume. So we're going to have the hype video and then a few moments talking, and you're going to then queue us up to send it down to Lois, correct? Copy. Thank you. YouTube is working. It's still on the hold screen. Waiting. No countdown. Are we calling this the World Final? Copy. No. All good, mate. You do what you need to do. Two cars, one track, and 18 drivers. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome to the Dallara Esports Championship 2025 World Final, live here in Paris. My name is Paul Jeffrey, and I'm delighted to say alongside me is the one and the only Mr. Luke Crane. Luke, how are you? And welcome to the show tonight.
I'm good, mate. I tell you what, that has got me ready. The old intro to this show. Wow, that was quite extraordinary. But yeah, an absolute pleasure to be alongside you for this. And it should be a fantastic event for everyone watching at home.
Yep, absolutely. It's going to be a spectacular day of Dallara-themed racing for you all to enjoy. If you're watching this on the AK Esports YouTube channel, a big hello to you. If you're watching this on the eMotion Sim Center Twitch channel, a big hello to you as well. Now, Luke, we've talked a little bit already about the fact that there are two cars, one track, and a championship to decide. But this is going to be, and we'll get into that one in a while, but this is going to be a real test of the driver's skill set, isn't it?
100%. What this will show for us is who's good at multiple different disciplines, right? In two different cars. And we won't necessarily see the fastest drivers from the semi-finals go out there and be the standout favourites in the final. Like, they've probably got the better chance, but the chances of there being someone who maybe just about sneaks into the final, winning it, is much more heightened because there is a different vehicle to use.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, we're going to talk about the vehicles and the format in a little while, but it feels like a good time to introduce a VT that we recorded a little earlier today that explains exactly who our 18 drivers are heading into these not one, not two, but three upcoming races. In fact, that VT will be rolling in a few moments' time. We'll come back to that one in a second, Luke, while we introduce the drivers. But in fact, here we go. So Marco Lomi of Italy is the first name up on your screen. Another Italian driver, Matteo Sinotti. Both drivers very experienced in the world of esports. Jude Vincent Molina from the United States of America is next up, alongside Jacob Petticord, another US driver qualified at Indianapolis. Joshua Douglas makes it 3 US drivers in this list so far. Again, all qualified on site. Bruno Gunnon, the French driver, qualified here at the eMotion Sim Center alongside Lucas Brulé, another one of our French contingent. Thomas Shabila is another of our French drivers, another big name in the world of sim racing, it has to be said. And then, of course, Italians, Simone Seminara, very, very talented driver we've seen at the peak of many races. Michael Monin from the United States of America, again qualified in Indianapolis. Marcin Swiderek, the Polish driver, qualified online, another name very familiar with sim racers. Anthony Molina, the American driver, joined Gaëtan Noguet, the French driver, qualified on site here at the eMotion Sim Center. Alessandro Coralba, another one of our Italian contingent. And then Daniel Human, the American driver, looking for big things in their semi-final. Sean Calland from France is another name that may be a little bit new to you, but expect him to be fast. Killian Hoyt, another of our French drivers, qualifying on site here. 18 drivers, Luke. Some of them we may know a little better than others, but one thing's for sure, to get to this point, they've got to have been very quick indeed.
Yeah, 100%. For me, Marcin Swiderek, his name stands out. I've commentated on him on multiple different disciplines. He will definitely be one of the stronger ones. But I want to bring a name to everyone's attention, Jacob Petticord. I commentated on him for the first time live in Indianapolis at the Dallara Center with AK last year. And he won the Indy 125 that we was holding there as well. So, yeah, interesting to see how he gets on.
Right then, before anything else, now let's head down to Lois Guijon, our show host on site, just before the racing action.
And nous sommes ouverts depuis le 6 avril. We are open since 6 April. And nous sommes en plein cœur de Paris, dans le 2e arrondissement. We're here in Paris, in the 2nd arrondissement. Et ici, à eMotion Paris, nous avons plusieurs simulateurs. Nous avons le GT, la Formula et bien sûr le rallye. Et la plus grande expérience qu'on offre ici à eMotion, c'est la Formule 1 à temps réel avec le volant d'Esteban Ocon, qui est d'ailleurs notre ambassadeur ici chez eMotion. So, we have GT Simulator, Formula, Rally, and a big one, it's a simulator F1 in real size with the Esteban Ocon, it's our ambassador. Et bien sûr, ici, nous avons un objectif, c'est avec The Grid, c'est de passer du virtuel au réel. Donc c'est une compétition qui permet aux pilotes qui n'ont pas forcément le moyen d'accéder à des vraies compétitions. Donc on leur offre le bon simulateur et l'opportunité de passer dans une vraie catégorie de voitures, c'est-à-dire la Porsche Cup, et donc pour avoir une saison complètement offerte et payée par nous. So we have the grid, it's our objective. So it's the pilots who don't have enough money to go in motorsport, and they can pass in the virtual to the real one to drive a Porsche Cup. Donc, vous avez compris, ici, nous avons beaucoup d'ambition et nous sommes très heureux d'être ici et on va vraiment souhaiter bon courage à tous nos pilotes. So, good luck for all of the pilots. Et je vais vous laisser tout de suite avec nos casters. I let you with our caster.
On site with our drivers, and Luke, you've done many on site gigs, so have I. You can feel the tension, can't you? The electricity, hopefully not electricity, otherwise we've got a problem, but definitely the tension in the air of these events. It's special, isn't it?
Oh, I've not only commentated on them, I competed back in the day many, many years ago. And it is, yeah, very different. When you're online, you're very comfortable. And if you're involved in an incident or a slight bit of a brushing, instantly in your head, you're like, oh, they're the worst person in the world. I want to find out where they live. You know, I'm going to go fight them. But when you're in the online environment, I think people race a little bit cleaner because, first of all, you're right next to them. You don't want to get a slap to the face, of course. But second of all, you realize actually everyone is just a human being and they're all trying to achieve the objective of winning, but ultimately they want to do it in a nice, fair way so that at the end of the day, when they do have a glass of wine or a glass of beer or whatever they want to do to celebrate, they can do it together.
Yeah, and I think that's the big thing, isn't it? We all love virtual racing, esports, sim racing, whatever you want to call it, but it's often forgotten about online that we are one big community. We all enjoy the same thing, and bringing these together, what AK Esports and what Dallara have done to bring people from the United States, from France on site, to bring people from all around Europe into a same place to race for a big prize, which again we'll talk about in a moment. It's a wonderful world we live in, isn't it, really? I know it's a little bit sort of like looking at things with rose-tinted glasses, but it's great that we live in a world where people like Dallara can put activations like this on.
Yeah, do you know what? I was a part, again, of an event they did last year in Indianapolis during the weekend of the Indy 500. And they brought loads of universities from the local area together to compete. And I'll be honest, I didn't think the standard was going to be that high when I first arrived. I thought, oh, okay, you know, these are just university students that are kind of just taking it up as a hobby. But yeah, my God, it was so close, so competitive. The times were really, really fast. So I think it's fantastic just for sim racing in general that these people are being exposed to sim racing. I think it's difficult for people just to stumble upon it. I think you kind of need to be, well, it's the same with anything, right? If you want to become, you know, a professional footballer, let's say, it's really easy because you can see the Premier League on television, you can see the MLS in America, whereas sim racing is harder to be exposed to it. So AK giving that opportunity to people is real key.
Yeah, it really, really is. And to talk about our drivers, we saw the names on screen, but I've written down a few key statistics. So we've got 5 nationalities from the 18 drivers that are taking part: Italy, United States, France, and Poland. And again, the qualification process was a little bit more difficult, a little bit more unusual. So we had 3 different rounds at 3 different tracks, and they were Laguna Seca from the 2nd to the 30th of June. In the 1st to the 31st of July, we went to the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. And of course, it wouldn't be sim racing if we didn't go to Monza. How droll. On the 1st of August to the 7th of September. And the drivers had an opportunity to set hot lap times, but using 2 different cars. So the Dallara Stradale, of course, which is the first car that we'll see in action today, and then the same car, but with a whole lot more fast things put onto it, the Dallara EXP. The average time across both sessions was combined to get the ranking for the qualification. So, Luke, you touched on it, but we'll talk about it some more for a moment if we can. This is a little bit about how the drivers can adapt as well, rather than just grinding the laps on one particular car. It's a real, we're asking a lot from these drivers, and then we're going to put them in a motor race as well.
Yeah, well, with the hot lap challenge, you can kind of do as many laps as you want, right? And, you know, just submit the perfect lap time. But then when it comes to the race, you have to then string 20 minutes together without a mistake in there. So there's drivers in this field that, you know, potentially have managed to just absolutely nail one lap out of 100, but the other 99, they were in a barrier, or they, you know, you can't park their scenarios for them. Whereas there are going to be other drivers that maybe were a couple of tenths off, but we're putting in consistent lap times over and over again. So yeah, as much as it's a fantastic to be a great qualifier or a hot lapper, it's all about the racing side of things. So, you know, expect to see some surprises. We've obviously got some top seeds that you expect to do well. And that's why the likes of Swiderek for me would be a favorite, because I've seen him time and time again, you know, competing at the very top level and getting good results at that top level.
And unfortunately, Luke, I'm a bit of a bad omen for Marcin. I've also seen him time and time again, usually at Mono Grand Championship finals that I'm commentating on, and it just never quite works out for one reason or the other. So collective fingers crossed for all of our drivers, including Marcin Swiderek. Now, we're not far away from track action, so it feels like a good opportunity. Just explain a little bit about what's upcoming. Off air, before we came onto the live, qualifying for both semi-finals has already taken place. We've not seen the grid yet. We'll find that out later on. But it is going to be 9 drivers per final. And here's the thing, Luke. Here is the kicker, the change from the normal process. Of the 9, that's not 9, is it? That's 10. Of the 9, only 7 go through. So it sounds easy on paper. Get in the top 7, make your way through to the final. Not as easy as that in real life, is it, though? In reality, this is going to be a very pressured environment.
First of all, you are a northerner, so it's very dangerous to use your fingers to count, because you've got more than we have down here.
I didn't think.
Second of all, yes, it's a completely different process. We're not going to be looking at points. We're going to quite literally be looking at 7 are going to go through. So there is a bubble position. If you're 8th and 9th, you're done and dusted. So, yeah, the insurance situation of the top 5, I'm pretty sure in the first couple of races, we're not going to see too much fighting. They'd be silly to do so. The last thing you want to do is try and get them to P4, and then all of a sudden you're out of the race because you overextended, you tried something too much, and then you're game over. So, yeah, interesting to see how this dynamic does indeed work out.
Yep, it really is, and we're only a few moments away from track action. And when we do, I'm going to swap to the correct microphone as well, which I've just been informed by my producer, Mike Yao. So when we go off vision, I'll exit and come back in again in a few moments' time. But again, 20-minute race. There's no second chances. We see in other competitions, don't we, that you've got multiple races up to the final. This is Mugello. This is a track that's old school in its very nature, that's very much a driver's circuit. One small mistake, one small error, goodbye participation, you've gone to France for nothing. That's a pressure that some of these drivers perhaps have maybe never felt before.
No, yeah, for sure. It's more of an esports format, to be honest. Like, it's not really traditional motorsports. I can't think of anything in motorsport where people get knocked out and then they're not available to race in the next race, you know. So it's very much lends itself to more of an esports format. I will say Mugello is one of the best circuits for racing because it's a traditional track where you go left, then right, left and right. It's a side-by-side action, lends itself. You know, you get an advantage to one corner, the next corner, the other guy's going to get the advantage. So you really have to be on it. And it's one of those circuits where you've got to set a move up sort of 3 or 4 corners in advance just to kind of put. One of my favourite parts of a race circuit in any circuit is Casanova through Cervelli down in towards Arabiata 1 and then into 2. Like there's 4 corners there where you can't make an overtake, but you can set yourself up for an opportunity down in towards Scarperia. So yeah, again, we'll have a look at the track to get there, but it's just one of those race circuits where genuinely you can race. And you know, as much as I love motorsport, you know, in the last sort of 10, 15 years, we've had loads of tracks pop up that aren't so much fun to commentate on, but this one should be fantastic.
That is incredibly diplomatically and well put. I like that one. I'm going to steal that about new racetracks and use it myself. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Racing intelligence is going to be vital for these drivers. 20 minutes, there's only 9 cars. If you get in a battle, if you're defending fresh air, if you're fighting where you don't need to, you will detach from the rest of the pack. And then it's as good as throwing the car into the tyre barrier. So I am sure, good people, you are all as fascinated as I am about the race that's to come. Don't worry, we're only a few moments away, but I'll take this opportunity to introduce a hype video of this championship and of what we're looking forward to commentating on tonight.
Maybe we got a hype dance. I'm not dancing, but maybe.
Well, yeah, well, we can hype anything you like. It's all very exciting. We're that excited about it all, folks, that we possibly can't control ourselves. But
we
we'll
might
come
be the
back
hype
to the
video.
hype. We could be the hype video. Enjoy the racing. There's your hype video. No, it is. We don't really need. This is the beauty, isn't it, of this competition?
This is the moment everything has led to. The battles, the mistakes, the victories, all come down to this. The margin for error, none. One race, one champion, one final truth. It's only the beginning.
There we go then. Very exciting indeed. And I sure can probably say in not so many words, I think anybody could win this one, Luke. And I think this one is up for whoever performs best on site, which is the most important thing. It's going to be vital for these drivers to just keep the pressure to the absolute minimum, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. Here we go. We're on to the grid then. Paul, I'll let you take it. Oh, well, I'll let you announce the grid.
Right then, so here we go. Let's take a quick look at the grid. It is Almeida Castorino on pole position, Thomas Sabilla alongside Marco Lome and Lucas Brulé are your second row of the grid. Bruno Garnot and then Jude Vincent Molina, 5th and 6th position. Matteo Cinotti is in 7th place, then it's Jacob Petticord in 8th, and 9th goes to Joshua Douglas. Time for talking, ladies and gents, boys and girls, is coming very much to an end, and we will be going motor racing very quickly indeed.
Yeah, we certainly will be. I will just shout out to Amedeo Castorino, another online qualifier. You would imagine the 3 online qualifiers would likely be the favourites today because there's just more people to battle up against in that regard. So Lomi, Castorina and Swideric are the 3 names you should probably be looking out for. Shibilia, though, holding it down for the French contingent. He is on the front row of the grid for this first race. And remember, it is the top 7 that will advance. And Broadcast 1 and Broadcast 2 are not in this race.
Nope, they're not indeed. They are to the side. Assetto Corsa, by the way, we forgot to mention this, is the platform that we're using today, the venerable Assetto Corsa, very well known, I'm sure, amongst all sim racing fans. Great to see this platform, Luke, isn't it? Still very much alive and kicking and hosting top tier international competitions.
Yeah, and it's getting improved upon all of the time as well. And I know a certain few race drivers that race in Formula One that still use this to prepare for their races each weekend. So yeah, it is absolutely still the go-to in terms of physics for all of your preparation needs. And yeah, I've seen these cars being raced on AC before, and it is always fun to watch. So yeah, this is going to be fantastic, Paul. I'm not sure how many races you've seen with these cars, but yeah, it's always quite fun to watch.
If it's got a roof on, my friend, I can call it a touring car, and then it's very much my cup of tea. So, yeah, very much looking forward to this one. A nip under 400 brake horsepower, car with 820 kilos worth of downforce with a rear wing attached. Sounds like a pretty decent advertisement for good fun, methinks. And I'm sure everybody watching at home is sitting comfortably, ready for this 20-minute battle amongst some superstars.
Yeah, it should be absolutely fantastic. So, Amedeo Castorino starts as your pole sitter. Then we've got then Shibilia in 2nd, Marco Lomi in 3rd, Lucas Brulé in 4th position, Bruno Gonon in 5th. Well, they've all just disappeared, unfortunately. There we go. Jude Vincent Molina in 6th, Matteo Cinotti in 7th position. Then we've got Jacob Petticord in 10th, and then Joshua Douglas in 11th spot. Just 18 seconds to go before we kick things off here. Oh boy, this is going to be fantastic, Paul.
Right then, do not adjust your sets, do not go anywhere, do not get any more comfortable than you already are, because the edge of the seat will be your friend. The lights are going off and the Dallara Esports Championship 2025
World final here in Mugello is go. Castorino gets a wonderful launch away from the line, but the drag down into T1 is long, it is perilous, and it is fraught with danger. Marco Lomi looking for the overlap as we go 3 wide, 4 wide at the back of your shot. Everybody needs to apply an air of caution to make it through the opening few corners, and Lucas Brule is the one that does that best, up in a second position just behind Castorino.
Oh, Lomi got an absolute wonderful launch down into turn and one, just run ever so slightly deep through one, and ultimately has lost the position here, and he's gone, well, no, he's back up to second position by the looks of things. Brule has dropped back down the order. No, he's back up to second position, so yeah, a timing tower, a couple of issues there. But yeah, Lomi, it looked like he was going to make a move, had the overlap around the outside, but ultimately just ran a little bit deep, and Castorino was given a bit of a freebie there, but very good start from everybody. They're all facing in the right direction, which is all that they want to do at this point.
Yep, exactly right. The first aim of the game is to get through the opening few corners, get through the opening lap where the cars are the heaviest, the tires are at their coldest, and we're riding on board with driver in 5th position now. Sonotti just behind, 0.3 of a second, no threat at this moment in time, but for Shabila, he's in that top 7. That's where he needs to be. But you know racing drivers just as well as I do, Luke. Staying in position and taking it through to the flag doesn't come naturally to these boys, does it?
No, there's very rarely an option for a race driver. And also, it's one of those catch-22 situations. Of course, you want to go through in the top 7, be nice and comfortable, but when you get to the final, you almost want to lay a marker down to your competitor and go, look, if I'm behind you in a race, I can get by you. I can beat you. So psychologically, it does, you know, oh, that's a big mistake there. That's Jacob Petticord, who runs very deep there. Get a nice drive off the exit, though, would have lost a couple of tenths of a second. But yeah, you almost want to psychologically gain an advantage of your competitors, letting them know that, you know, I am capable of overtaking you and I am capable of gapping you.
Yep, exactly that one. Part of motor racing skill set is about the mental armoury that you can bring to a motor racer. If you're the likes of Jacob Petticord or any one of the drivers looking to get inside this top 7, then you're going to want to play the mental game as best as you possibly can. Bruno Goddard, that we're looking at in 4th position, becoming a little bit detached from the fight for the provisional podium spaces. Thomas Shabila not quite close enough to close up just yet. But as a driver, Luke, these are perilous times because you can almost lull yourself into a bit of a false sense of security. And that, my friends, is where the mistakes come in.
Yeah, start you're looking at the whole field as your race, but there's, you know, the longer it goes on, you kind of split the race into mini races. It's very clear that the front 3 have got a nice gap to work with now. So Bruno gone on, knowing that just being in the top 7 is good enough, will start worrying about Thomas in behind him and go, look, if I can keep him behind me, we're good to go, which again is going to make it a little bit slower, going to lose a bit more time to that front 3, and then Shabila is going to be forced into a situation he probably doesn't want to be involved in, and that is, you know, trying to make a move around here, which again, it is a circuit where you can race, but it's still difficult to make an overtake, and if you can avoid it, being side by side with somebody, you want to try and avoid that. It looks like Joshua Douglas, who has got some fans, by the way, in the chat. I'm just seeing here, Molly Moaning is shouting out for Joshua Douglas. He's currently in 9th position and a little bit detached from the rest of the field. But in terms of our top 7, the gap between 7 and 8 right now, Jacob Petticord's got about a second advantage over Jude Vincent Molina. But yeah, it's not looking good for Joshua Douglas now, 8 seconds adrift from the field.
Yep, shame there for Joshua from the United States of America, of course, qualified online at Indianapolis at the Dallara USA Centre. But Josh, not having the start to the race he would hope for, 8.2 seconds as the gap next car up the road. Jude Vincent Molina, by the way, in 8th position. He's the first driver that won't make it through to the grand final a little bit later on today. So work to do for that particular driver. Marco Lomi, though, the work he needs to do is purely about glory. Oh, there's a mistake for Lomi.
Whoa.
Right on cue, just as we say it, the right-hand side of the car out on the gravel, and Marco Lomi, this is going to be a frustrating rejoin to the racetrack. Be nice and careful not to spin the car again. Gets hold of it, and Marco Lomi, all of a sudden, in beautiful symphony to what we were saying, they're the mistakes we were talking about, Luke, and that now, as things stand, if it was to fall, would mean Marco was to go home early.
Well, he's just about in, apparently. I've got to figure out where Jude Vincent Molina is in this. He's currently in... Oh, no, there you go. So, no, it's just figured itself out once they cross the line. So you are absolutely spot on. Lomi drops down into 8th position, and that is a costly mistake at this stage. If this was the final, it's all done and dusted. There's no chance he's going to go out there and win the race. But because of the format, top 7 are going to go through, he does have a second chance here. But if Jude Vincent Molina doesn't get involved in anything too crazy. Well, so you see Jacob Petticourt there making a mistake. Molina there gaining a bit. Well, no, Molina not quite making a move actually. Yeah, does Molina go for it here, try and get a bit more insurance, and then Petticourt becomes the driver at risk? You know, do they not fight at all and hope that Lomi doesn't catch them? By the looks of things, they've already lost a second there from that mistake from Petticourt. So Lomi is almost back in the hunt here.
Yep, if you're Molina and you see the name Marco Lomi in your rearview mirror and your time in Delta, you find yourself some kind of bridge between the two of them. Marco Lomi, deeply rapid. Jude Vincent Molina is going to have a lot of work to do to hold back the bright yellow car. Beautiful split screen that we're seeing here. Amado Castorino lead the race and with the flap as well for good measure. The real fight is for that split position in 7th place, and here is the launch. Marco Lomi, first time of asking, looks to the outside line. I think he's going to carry the pace all the way around turn 1. Will he be given racing room? That's about as close as you're going to get. And Molina, now the man that will make it through.
Yeah, Lomi just pinches Jude Vincent Molina onto the apex there and trusted Molina to not run deep through the apex, and he did ever so slightly. Luckily, they both get through there very nicely indeed. But yes, Lomi into a top 7. And I'll tell you what, this is not necessarily the worst thing because they will all have nerves, Paul. And you all back of your head, you're waiting to make a mistake. The reason why you're so nervous is because you are so worried about making an error. And the fact that he's had that error and he's done and out and early, it might bode really well into the, because he's clearly got the pace. He qualified, you know, second on the grid, right? So he's clearly got the pace to be in and amongst the top drivers. So I'm just wondering whether, you know, you don't aim to make a mistake, of course, but whether that helps him going into the final.
And you make a very good point, actually, Luke. That is a very, very good point. But motor racing is purely who makes the least mistakes rather than being 100% clean. And perhaps for Marco Lomi, now that one's out of the way, he can build upon this. The big question is, though, there's still 12 and 13 minutes left to go. Beautiful. Oh, dear.
Yeah, there's a big spin there. So Jude Vincent Molina has just basically turned in with a bit too much power, lost the rear of the car, and Lomi gets caught up in that. Jacob Petticourt then has been able to just drive up the road and got a little bit of distance from these two. Molina is just, I think, still in behind Lomi. Or was it Petticourt? It might have been Petticourt, you know, who just made that mistake.
I think it was.
It was, yeah. So now Jude Vincent Molina's gone up into 6th position. Petticourt's the one who's dropped down. And poor Lomi was actually the innocent bystander, gets tagged ever so slightly, runs into the gravel. And if he does get a top 7, it will be the hardest fought top 7 ever.
It's definitely making life hard, and everyone's making life hard for him, isn't it, for Marco Lomi? But the end result is that 7th position is now 2 hands firmly upon it. Jacob Petticourt, though, we saw, it wasn't the onboard camera, it was the roaming RF camera that picked up the incident from Marco Lomi's perspective. So not quite sure exactly what happened there for Jacob Petticourt. What we do know is the car is still in contention. And if you're the American driver, it's the smart play now. Glue yourself to the back of Marco Lomi and see if Marco can shake a few trees with Jude Vincent Molina ahead. 12.5 minutes, 11.5 minutes. Whoa, running out of time.
I'll be quite honest with you, Paul. I don't think he's got much of a choice here. He's going to have to stay behind Lomi because I think the pace differential is quite significant. So yeah, I believe he has to stay behind Lomi and hope that Lomi and Molina really get in it. With 1.4 seconds to catch up, and you know we're nearly at halfway point in this race. You know, Lomi doesn't have to make the overtake, but I think naturally he's going to catch him. So there is still an opportunity for Petticourt. But yeah, what's happened there is he's tried to defend the inside line and then got spooked because Lomi's got a really nice run around the outside. Lomi's tried to pinch him onto the apex, and yeah, he basically driving with his mirrors. And he's just turned in too much there with a bit too much power, and his rear stepped out completely. And to be still in contention this close, actually testament to how well he saved it, in all fairness.
Yeah, absolutely. Who would have thought 400 brake horsepower to the rear wheels would be traction limited on the rear of the car? But Jacob Petticourt, as you say, still very much in contention for this one. Another fastest lap for Amado Castorino at the head of the pack. 1.6 seconds now. 1.7 make that to Lucas Brulé behind. So surprising no one. Castorino's come into this one and shown absolutely immense pace, hasn't he? He's a very, very fast pedaler in anything, it seems, in sim racing, irrespective of the platform or the car, and he's proven it once again.
Yeah, Amadeo here getting the perfect preparation for the final by just being out there and just running as fast laps as he possibly can. Lucas Brulé, though, isn't drop by any stretch of the imagination. It's 1.4 seconds. It is fluctuating as well. Seems like Brulet's a little bit faster through sector 1, and then Castorino's a little bit quicker through sector 2, and indeed sector number 3. I want to shout out to the production team here, by the way, because I have been involved in a lot of esports sort of formats where, you know, the top 6 or top 7 go through, and they still just focus on P1 and P2, when in actual fact we do want to see the bubble. We want to see the drivers that are not quite qualifying and then fighting for that spot. So fantastic to see that the format is being acknowledged. Yeah, really great work for AK Esports behind the scenes. Really good work on the racetrack from our 9 drivers. And by the way, Joshua Douglas, who got into strife at the start of the race, yes, is a fair difference. Still 9 seconds inching towards the 10-second barrier, but he's still in contention. While you're on the racetrack, you have an opportunity. Thomas Spieler, that we're looking at in 4th place, doing good work so far, closing that gap to Bruno Gonon at the bottom step of the podium. We'll keep half an eye on this one. We'll keep full attention, though, on this particular fight. And Marco Lome has made very short work of the gap between himself and Jude Vincent Molina. Yeah, heading down in towards that final corner. We're going to get a lovely onboard here. You can get to see how much cross steering there is and how much work they have to do behind the wheel. You can see also the undulation of this circuit coming downhill out of the final corner. And actually, to be fair, it was nailed there by the driver in front of Molina. And can we see Lomi potentially make a move? You can see the slipstream, the higher the speeds they go, the smaller that gap will get, the more speed the guy behind can indeed improve. We run towards turn number 1 there, braking a little bit earlier, and should get a really nice exit. A bit of a mistake there from the car in front, getting a bit more counter steering. The tyres are going to be really hot at this point, so we head up the hill then through the left-right chicane through turn number 2 and 3, and it's just normal service resumed. I'm not sure Lomi's going to be too worried about this. If the car in front of him is going faster than the car behind him, then he doesn't really need to make any moves here at all. Yeah, but that's very close from Marco. Massive counter steering there in the yellow machine. Does well to hang on to the car. So Marco Lome, absolutely and categorically, is showing no intention of consolidating that qualification position, climbing all over the back of Molina. And as Luke mentioned there while we were watching on board, a couple of mistakes from the white machine up there in 6th position. So Molina starting to feel perhaps the pressure of his Italian rival behind, and this is going to be vital. Soaking up the pressure is so important in competitions like this, Luke, and even more so when you look over your shoulder and you can see your rival in the whites of their eyes. Yeah, 100%. You've got here Bruno going on, who is currently in that 3rd position. You've got Thomas Shibilia, who is in 4th spot, and this is what I mean by trying to get one over your competitor. The race is done. You're not going to win this race. You know, it's over and out in terms of the front 2, but you know, if you find yourself in a position where you are 1-2 with Bruno Gonon, we're in a different car, of course, maybe that's your strength. Now you've got to put one over him here to let him know that in the next race, if it's in the same situation, I have the beating of you. So again, we're on board with Lomi. Lomi with a really nice exit round that final corner, runs it nice and wide there as well. So should have that pace difference, should have that momentum difference as we run across the start-finish line here to start lap number 8. Yeah, we're on lap number 8 now with 6 minutes 40 seconds to go, and I think this might be the opportunity for that overtake. Molina, who would still be in a qualifying position, leaves that door turn number 1, and Lomi is not going to need a second invitation. He has the key, he's unlocked the door, and he's overtaken that position. Lomi up in position, didn't lose too much time, and really the big loser in this situation is actually Pedicore, because he's still about 3.5 seconds behind, and these two didn't really for that lot. Yeah, that's a real shame for Jacob Pedicord. He was desperate for these 2 drivers to get engaged in battle, give himself an opportunity, as we're looking at Jude Vincent Molina on board and on the racetrack as well. Now down in 7th position, as you mentioned, very much in qualification spots. So all he needs to do now is manage the gap, the 3.6 second gap to himself and Jacob Pedicord. Bruno Gonon holding on to that bottom step of the podium as well. Thomas Shibilia just behind, keeping a watching brief, waiting for an opportunity with just under 6 minutes left to go here at the beautiful Mugello circuit in Italy. It's very much looking like Bruno Gonon has the advantage and will take the first podium event. Let's not forget, we're racing semi-final number 2 straight after this one, and then there'll be a short break and we'll go into the final where we crown our champion and give them an opportunity to drive a Dallara race car on a real racetrack just next week. Yeah, to everyone watching over on YouTube on the AK Esports channel, there is actually a separate stream for the final on the same channel, so make sure you subscribe, turn notifications on, and you can come and join us for the final race. race, which for me, I believe is going to start in about just over 2 hours time. So yeah, not long at all. As we go across the line then, Amedeo Castorino still leads the way in second position, 1 seconds adrift. Hasn't really let that gap increase significantly. So you imagine these two are the two to watch out for so far, and if they can find themselves in a proper battle in the final, you think that they would have the pace to stick around. Then you've got Bruno Gonon, who's currently 6.6 behind. Shibilia is starting to close that gap. It's under a second now for the first time in quite some time. We've got Shinotti in the 5th position, up ahead then of Lomi. Lomi 4.2 seconds back. Jude Vincent Molina is comfortably in that top 7. So that is who we are looking at, or we're looking for is top 7 here. We'll advance through to our finals. There's not really been any contact between the drivers either, so you would imagine that would be it. Those 7 would go through. In terms of shooting, it's going to be a quite easy day for them. And then Pennycourt and obviously Douglas, who, I'll be honest, Jacob and Josh probably have the most supporters in the chat. I've seen Josh and I've seen Jacob's name being announced across the whole of the stream. So shout out to anybody supporting your favourite family member or your mates. It's always appreciated. But if you've got any questions in the chat, also get them in and I'll try and answer them during the race.
A shout out to stewards all around the world that listen to you say that one and slap their forehead in anger going, no, the second the commentator says it's going to be an easy day, all hell breaks loose on racetrack. Let's hope that doesn't happen though, with 3.5 minutes then to go of this first of 2 semi-finals. The top 7 will make it through to the grand final a little bit later on today, and so far Jacob Pennycourt is the one that's going to be the first to miss out. Joshua Douglas as well, getting detached at the back of the pack, but still holding on in 9th position, seeing this race through to the conclusion as the fastest lap of a 1 minute 49.647 goes the way of Amedeo Castorino. With 9 laps on the books, starting the 10th, already got a couple more to go. We can find out who is going to make it through to the next stage of the competition.
Yeah, Shibilia about 0.3 of a second closer than he was last time around. Looks pretty cool, calm and on the no real stress being shown in the face and really working the wheel. Getting the movement left and right. It's very much it's almost like a NASCAR style. I guess the way the car bounces around this circuit and slips and slides around, as we get a lovely shot here of the arena that they're all racing in, and that's a real big factor, is that they are racing quite literally door to people, in the race. Whereas at home, you're on your own. You can maybe talk to them in game, or you can maybe talk to them in a Discord call. But right now, if you cause an incident with someone, you have a rough corner through there, they can tell you they had a rough experience with you face to face after this race.
And also, let's not forget, for the likes of you and I, Luke, it's become normal business. Having a camera shoved in your face while you're trying to perform at a high level is sometimes a very different experience, and very, very difficult to sort of not get discombobulated, isn't it? And get put off of the task in hand.
Having a camera shoved in your face when you're trying to perform at a high level, I can tell you that right now. Thomas Shibilia, though, currently in 4th position, very close behind Bruno Gonon. Half a second between the two of them here, Paul. It's getting closer. Are we potentially going to see a move here on the last lap?
Yeah, could well be. Shibilia, he's got the air of the hunter about him, hasn't he? He's been very cautious, very conservative in his approach to this attack for P3 so far, just watching the car ahead, waiting for an opportunity, waiting for the absolute perfect moment to make your move. One mistake at this stage could be complete and utter game over for all of these drivers. They need to filter that into their risk versus reward matrix. I don't even think these drivers probably have them. See opportunity gap. That's the way to do it, isn't it?
Pretty much, mate. Pretty much. Amedeo Castorino still leads this race. They always say the creme brulee all is right at the top. Not quite this race. Maybe we'll have to wait for the final for that. But Lucas Brulé is in 2nd position. Bruno Gonon holding on to that 3rd spot as it stands. But Shibilia is catching up over and over again each and every lap. But now the gap is it was coming down by about 0.3 of a second a lap. Now it's about 1/10 of a second. Now it's down to 4/10 in its entirety. This is my favourite part of this circuit through Casanova. Of course, I love this part of the circuit. Casanova is such an appropriate word there as well. Savelli, and now they're coming through Arrabbiata 1, then into Arrabbiata 2, and then really there's the overtaking opportunity of Scarperia, which is the right-hander we're coming up to now. A little bit quicker than the next corner, which is Pelagio. Again, not quite close enough here for Shibilia to make that move.
Lots and lots of tension. Then there's only 8 seconds left on the clock for these drivers. There's going to be one final opportunity to make your mark in the 2025 Dallara Esports Championship final night event. The last opportunity to take the chance to drive a real Dallara EXP race car on the circuit. Paul Ricard is a future problem. The right here on the right now is semi-final number 1. Over and complete. Castorino from pole position goes over the line, and with it takes himself a very, very commanding victory from Lucas Brule, Bruno Gonon, Thomas Shibilia in 4th, Matteo Cianotti in 5th, Marco Lomi 6th, Jude Vincent Molina is the last of our qualified drivers. We say goodbye, sadly, to Jacob Petticord and Joshua Douglas, who failed to make it into the top 7 in 8th and 9th places, respectively.
Hey, they've had worse days, though. They get €2,000 for the travel expenses and whatever they need to spend while they're over there. So, yeah, it's as much as it's not the greatest feeling coming in 8th and 9th, they're going to get €2,000. So, again, they've had worse days. So, watching on board then with Joshua Douglas, about to come across the line to be our final driver across the line. So 9th position then for Mr. Douglas. Wow, that was an interesting race for many different reasons.
Yeah, absolutely. So the key to this one was always going to be stay out of trouble. That's what the drivers needed to do. That's what, for the most part, the drivers delivered. But I think you said it, Luke, at the top of the show, and if you didn't, it's an absolute point worth making. You only needed the top 7. You don't show your full hand at this stage of the competition. It's all about the finals, isn't it? We've seen a bit of the form book, but my argument is that form book, get it, throw it away, means nothing.
Yeah, I think Lomi tried his best to not qualify for the final, chucked in the gravel, then got involved in Petticord's issue. I'm trying to remember what corner that would have been. That was through Corintau. Yeah, so it got involved there with an issue, but it still managed to just about get through. So hopefully all of the misfortune, I say misfortune, is his own error for the first one. But yeah, hopefully all the issues and the driver errors and the run out of talent is over now for him, and he can be good.
Okay, so let's head downstairs then and talk to our race winner. I think Lois has got our race winning driver.
Hi, so well done for your race. How are you feeling about the final? Are you confident?
Yeah, hi everyone. The race felt, pretty hard because you always have to adapt yourself when you are in a LAN event. But especially at the start, I was almost losing the position, but luckily I braked later than my opponents, so I managed P1. And then my pace was a bit faster, so I pulled a bit of gap to P2, and then I was just managing everything for get P1 and yeah, go safe to the final.
Okay, great. And last question, who are you most afraid for the final?
Probably about Zviderek. I don't know if the pronunciation is correct because I saw he's on the other semi-final, so I can't directly compare with him, so that's a bit annoying as well. But I saw he was very fast, so probably him, I will say.
Okay, thank you, and see you for the next race.
Fabulous stuff. Thank you very much. And Luke, it's wonderful, isn't it, to be able to get the emotion from the driver that very second they step out of the quote-unquote car.
Oh, sim racers having to talk to actual people. It's crazy how far we've come in the last 15 years. Yeah, I tell you what, I will say one thing. I predicted Castorino and Swiderek at the start of the show, and well, Castorino just won a race, and then he predicted Swiderek was going to be his top competitor. So yeah, I only get one thing right every year, and here it is. Where we are, not October. It's taken this long.
Well, I've got a 100% hit rate of making predictions in the day job and then that driver having an absolute nightmare. So I'm not doing it to these good people. I couldn't possibly give them my jinx. Now, obviously, we're on site at the Emotion Centre in Paris. The drivers from semi-final number 2 have been sat very patiently watching their rivals race. Just how much, you're a way more competitive driver than I ever was, how much more of an advantage or a benefit is that going to be to our second group of drivers, do you think?
I don't think there's any positives to it, to be honest. I think I would want to go first. Yeah, I genuinely, because you can only ever see something go wrong, to be honest, that would affect your mindset, like or someone going really fast. So I prefer to go first.
No, that's fair enough. I'm rubbish in all concerns, so it makes no odds. Right then, folks, semi-final race number 1 was a bit of a cracker. Second races are always better. Semi-final 2 is right around the corner. Don't go anywhere. We will be back when we can see which next 7 drivers make it through to the grand final. Everybody, and welcome back to the Dallara Championship 2025 World Finals Day here at the Emotion Centre in Paris. My name is still Paul Jeffrey, and that man's name is still Luke Crane, and we've still got a semi-final motor race to do. Luke, race one was entertaining, dramatic, and a little bit controversial in parts. Semi-final number two, more of the same, please.
Absolutely. Castorino has thrown the gauntlet down. He believes that his biggest competitor is going to be Marcin Swiderek, which is something I agree with. And we get to see Swiderek now in action in the second race. So I think the pressure is on Swiderek, to be completely honest. Like, he's almost been told, I'm worried about you. You're the one who has to do well. And if he doesn't in this, it's a kind of like, oh, okay, maybe Castorino has already got the better of him.
Yep, and that's a very important thing, actually, because, again, just to be very, very clear, if you're joining this broadcast early or cannot make sense of the pictures that are in front of you, all of these drivers are on site together in France, in Paris, and they're going to hear the comments that people are saying Swiderek is a shoo-in for this victory. He's a favoured driver, he's a big name. That plays on the mind, doesn't it? Especially when you've got a bit of downtime, Luke, and you're sort of waiting for your turn in the cockpit in an uncomfortable scenario compared to being at home. That starts to eat away in the head, doesn't it?
No one wants to be a favourite, that's for sure. We're seeing it in the Premier League right now. Liverpool like Arsenal are favourites, Arsenal like Liverpool are favourites. And then you go to Formula One, McLaren, who's clearly been the quickest car. They're suddenly like, well, no, actually, Red Bull are the fastest car. It's like, well, hold on, you know, just embrace it. But some people just do not like being the favourite. So, yeah, I think that's very clever from Castorino there. Maybe a bit of mind games, kind of, yeah, that's the one I've got to watch out for. Over to you. I've performed, I've done my job, you know, it's now over to you to go out there, get that win, and prove why I believe you are the favourite to win this.
Yep, absolutely. Well, ready to go straight away. 1 minute countdown on the board for the green flag, and it's Marcin Swiderek, who's the quickest driver of all. So the favourite tag sitting comfortably on the Polish driver's shoulders. Quickest in qualification. Michael Monin alongside him on the front row of the grid. Simone Seminara will line up in third position, just ahead of Gaten Noguet in fourth. Fifth position goes the way of Huit. Alongside him is Calland, and then it's Molina, Human, and Conalba are your top 9. If anything we've learned from the first race of the day is absolutely nothing is guaranteed irrespective of your qualification position.
No, absolutely not. And it's nice to see that the top USA qualifier over the 2 races on the front row for the second race. So yeah, it's all 3 of the top 3 drivers have qualified in a different way. So that's fantastic to see that, you know, it doesn't really necessarily matter where you've qualified from, you can still be right at the sharp end, as we have a lovely onboard there of our pole sitter. So the favourite to win today, Swiderek, I think is pretty much the general consensus. We're about to find out if he's going to do what Castorino did and win this race.
So here we go then, the lights are on and the lights are off. We go for semi-final number 2 of the Dallara Esports Championship 2025, the finals day here. Paris. Marcin Swiderek from pole position will be hoping to have the advantage for the long run down into T1, and away we go. Michael Monin in second place. He's vulnerable though. The inside line has been open. Seminara tries to walk through the gap that has been very nicely presented to him, but Simone Seminara can't quite get alongside. Michael Monin place, Noguet behind, keeping a watching brief as well. Everybody through the first few corners.
Really clever there from Michael Monin. Runs a little bit deep through turn number 1, but ultimately knows he's going to be able to get the power down a little bit earlier on the exit of it, and just kind of kept himself out of trouble. Didn't really want to pinch towards the apex there, and, you know, maybe have a bit of contact with Seminara, and ultimately keeps hold of P2. I think in terms of the qualifying times, you know, Swiderek is very, very quick, so that's not his battle in this race. It might be in the final, but right now, just make sure you get yourself a good position. Make sure you find yourself some decent track position and safe space, and ultimately then don't have to worry about being outside that top 7.
Yep, absolutely. Very tense times then for all of our drivers. Sean Callum riding on board with, looking back at Molina. Nice and comfortable gap at this moment in time. 0.6 of a second says the timing tower. No need to defend, says the driver behind the wheel. Killian Hewitt, that we're looking at in 5th positions, a little bit closer. Perhaps that would be comfortable to the cars ahead. But so everybody's keeping a nice, cautious opening few corners, just bringing the tyres into temperature, bringing the car into temperature, and keeping their race hopes alive, which is the most important thing for these opening few laps at least.
Yeah, very similar to race number 1. The front 3 have kind of got away here, but there's a lovely little cluster of Noiguet, Huet, Calland, and Molina. most important point about that is that all of them are currently in the top 7. Human now about a second off of the pace of that top 7, and then you've got Cornalba, who is in 9th position. So as it stands, it's very obvious that the front 7 have a little bit more pace, and if they're just to keep themselves out of trouble, they'll make their way into the final with safe passage. But it's easier said than done. In motorsport, we know that that is just not the way they work. They will try and race for every 10th of a second they possibly can, so expect to see some fireworks during this race regardless of where they are on track.
Oh, yes, that's exactly what we have come here for, Killian Hewitt, then. That we're having a look in 5th position. Beautiful livery on that Dallara Stradale, and there we go. There is the young man riding on board at this moment in time. Killian, of course, comes from qualified on site at the eMotion Sim Centre, so he's one of the drivers that are quote-unquote on home soil, or at least have got a little bit of experience compared to those around, and so far so good for Killian. He's doing good work, but there's Anthony Molina. Hello tyre barrier, hello racetrack. A little bit of damage on the red machine, and Molina has fallen all the way down into the clutches and corner. Disaster for car number 8, 7.
Yeah, I'm a little bit upset for Cornalba there a little bit, because that was a horrendous rejoin, unfortunately. So Cornalba there had to really back out of that, otherwise there would have been contact. And yeah, I believe Molina needs to have a little look at himself there, a touch, and just think there are other people on the racetrack. It's not all about you just joining as soon as you possibly can. And Cornalba's going to be looking at that top 7, getting away, thinking, oh, I could be really close to, in that last, the last bubble position in terms of P8, could be battling for that P7, but Cornalba's really hurt him there.
Yeah, it really is. What that does mean, though, is Daniel Human now has an opportunity. He moves up into 7th position, does Daniel, and that's where he needs to be to make it through into the World Final a little bit later on today. Anthony Molina, though, you can see him on board, just leaning in now, starting to feel a little bit of pressure. He's got a lot of recovery work to do as Marcin Swiderek goes quickest of all with a 1 minute 50.071. We've seen faster over the course of this evening, but Swiderek, I think, is doing just what he needs to do, Luke, at this time to bring home that win.
Yeah, not at this stage of the race, though, I must add. We did see Castorino go down into the 49s, but it's in the latter stages. We were seeing sort of 150.6s at this point of the race, so that's actually very impressive. Shows that he's got a bit more raw pace, and very similarly to race number 1, about a second gap, so nothing really to worry about. So can just go out there and hot that.
Yep, absolutely. Just get the car to the finish line. That's the name of the game at this moment in time. Sean Callard, though, trying very hard indeed to get inside that top 10. And this is Gaetan Noye, currently in 4th position, but 1.9 seconds away from the podium places. So our top 3, we're only 5 minutes into this race, Luke, but our top 3 are walking away with this one, aren't they?
They certainly are, as we come through Arrabbiata 1 and then into Arrabbiata 2. The exit of, one of my favourite motorsport sections in the world, as we now head down in towards Scarperia, down in towards Pelagio, and now we've just got one section of the circuit left to go of this lap. And P4 right now, you've got no real fight to go towards in front of you. You're more than happy to have a 2-second gap to them because it's safe passage through. And when you've got a similar gap behind you as well, it is really the perfect scenario to be in P4. You either want to be in P1 or in a nice safe bit of the track anywhere else in that top 7. So yeah, right now if you're Noige, if you're Hewitt, you're in a good spot.
But then again, you speak to Marco Lome and he'll tell you sometimes that good spot can be a bit too comfortable and a mistake is right around the corner. And often in racing, it's not always door to door, wheel to wheel. Sometimes your own worst enemy, your rival, is you, your headspace, and minimising those mistakes. And I'm sure you know as well as I do, look, as soon as it sneaks into your mind, you're comfortable, don't make a mistake. That's when that nasty mistake comes around and gives you a little tickle on the ribs, isn't it?
Yeah, it certainly does. The difference between real-world motorsport and sim racing is the amount of laps, the amount of track time. Was that mistake there from Noige? He got away. Looks like he was bouncing around. He's okay. He's okay. But yeah, the difference is that the sim racers can do 1,000 laps over a couple of days, and be none the wiser. Whereas in racing, they get like an hour practice session. Sometimes that is it, and they're done. They're into the race. So precision, being able to replicate the laps time and time again, is easier in sim racing. To get to the top pace, obviously, is very difficult regardless of the discipline. But going out there and being at 95%. said, could be a detriment to your result. We're seeing a big mistake there from Human, who is, of course, human with that mistake. And can Molina potentially take full advantage of it? I think this is actually pretty good for Corn Alba, by the way, because if these two do start having a little bit of a ding-dong, it does bring him back into play.
Oh, it really does. This is completely, well and truly game on for the... Remember, just like semi-final one, if you joined the broadcast new to give you a bit of insight, the top 7 make it through the World Final a little bit later on today. 8th and 9th, thanks for coming to France. See you later. Onwards you go. So this is vital now for the likes of Anthony Molina, for the likes of Daniel Human that holds on to that 7th position, and for Corn Alba, as Luke Crane rightly mentioned, the harder these fight, the closer that car can join and make it a 3-way squabble. If you're Daniel Human, the weight of the world is on your shoulders, and with 12.5 minutes to hold on, it's going to be a big ask.
Yeah, we know that Molina has a mistake in him. We've already seen that into the wall, and also not thinking too clearly as well by rejoining the track in the manner that they did. So, yeah, if you're Corn Alba right now, you're not that worried at this stage of the race as we see a potential dive up the inside. It's a big dive. He's not going to hit the apex. Oh, he does hit the apex, actually. Looked like he was going to completely steer off the apex there and actually got away with it. There will be a loss of time, though. Corn Alba will close up as we come up through turn 2 and indeed 3. The lovely chicane here. There it is. The gap has come down. It's half a second now between 9th up in about 7/10 actually entirety. And can Human get back involved here in Molina? If Molina cannot drive away, there is a world where these two scrap it out for the rest of this race.
Oh, this is fantastic stuff. 11 minutes then and 40 seconds on the clock. Anthony Molina is the man in the pound seats. He's the one that's got the golden ticket to get through to the final.
Oh!
But I think Daniel Human, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Corn Alba, throwing it all.
Yeah, Corn Alba there just runs deep, unfortunately, out of Casanova into Lee, and I believe that will be his race done and indeed dusted. So yeah, the final fight for that final position to qualify in 7th spot was 3, now it's 2. Human now 0.8 of a second behind Molina. Looks like Molina has found a bit more form, has found a bit more pace, and is driving away ever so slightly there. So Corn Alba will be gutted with how that's gone down.
And there is the Italian driver, Alessandro Corn Alba, qualified in Italy at Verano at the Dallara Centre there, made his way through into this finals event. And I do think for Alessandro, perhaps it'll be a case of what could have been a little bit too much on the aggressive side, not quite enough on the straight and narrow. But saying that one, we have got just over half race distance left to go. And Luke, if anything that we've seen from the 30 minutes, the 20 minutes, the last race, the 10 minutes of this one, mistakes are never far away. You've got to stay in the race to still be with a shout. And Daniel Human, he could possibly be the fly in the ointment for Molina that brings Corn Alba back into this one.
Yeah, they are only human after all. Well, I guess one of them is at the very least. As we run in towards turn number 1, he runs a little bit deep, and he's got to try and get into the head of Molina slightly ahead here. Maybe to take some different lines and there, maybe throw Molina off by making him think you're going to send one from a huge distance. Right now, the distance is manageable. Half a second is manageable. You're not expecting anything to come out of the blue. But if you just take different lines and he's looking in his mirrors at you, and nearer the braking zones, and he's not focusing on getting the car stopped, that's where mistakes can creep in. The gap will come down. Then the opportunity can present itself.
Yeah, it does feel a little bit though, doesn't it, that Molina's got the pace at this moment in time. So Dan just dropping back a little bit, certainly not for one to try in. The car and the body language suggests all of the racetrack and a little bit more is being used by Daniel Human, but at this moment in time it's not quite enough. He's dug deep, but he just needs a couple more taking a lap to stay in contention with Molina. And for Daniel, this is a difficult prospect, isn't it, for the American driver? He qualified at Indianapolis at Dallara to USA over there. He's come all the way to France, and you can smell, you can taste, you're almost there for the goal, but not quite. And as a driver, how difficult is it to not start searching for more lap time that you just don't have, and then make the inevitable hello tyre barrier, goodbye prospects?
It's a really good point you make there about, if he's in a different country and cultural differences between Indianapolis and Paris are large. Just not, being comfortable in your surroundings can be a bit of a struggle, and if you're from the region you're racing in, that's a huge advantage. So I think it's a really, really good point you've brought up there. But motor racing is motor racing, right? They're just hitting the loud pedal and then hitting the not so loud pedal, just sometimes a little bit better than the other driver or their competitor, or driver that's doing it the very best right now is Swiderek. Not sure exactly what his fastest lap time is currently, but we're looking for a sort of mid 49 to be on pace with Castorina at this stage of the race.
Yeah, fantastic performance, isn't it, from Marcin Swiderek? Qualified online, the Polish driver, one of only 2-3 drivers that have qualified online, and the only one, funnily enough, in this semi-final number 2. Everybody else has done their on-site process to get here, and Marcin Swiderek doing a lot of good work to justify a potential favourite tag coming into this event. But again, this is only the semi-finals, ladies and gentlemen. The top 7 from here will join the top 7 from semi-final 1 for one final dance to decide the champion. And everything you do now, it might be good, it might be important, it might be a dominant win, but Luke, when you get into the final, that's worth precisely nothing, isn't it, compared to what you do in the here and now?
No, the only thing you can really gain from this race, well, I guess there's 2 things, is safe passage through to the final, but it's comfortability, being comfortable with the rig, because you may not have your favorite pillar that you would have at home, or you're using this different equipment to what you would be using at home. Like, it's very unlikely, the amount of sim gear in the world at this point, it's very unlikely that when you go to a LAN event you're going to be using something that is the same as what you would be using on a LAN event. So yeah, getting comfortable as early as possible is absolutely key, and I believe Swiderek might have just put in the fastest lap out of everybody today.
Absolutely consummate performance at the head of the pack. Daniel Human now has an opportunity. He's been almost thought he was being released by Molina, but no, Molina just about holds on. Human wanted the inside line, has no opportunity, looks to the outside for the run down into T1. They're going to be side by side in the braking zone. Human, though, he's got the optimal line. Will he switch back to the apex, try and get the run uphill out of turn 1 into chicane? He does so, but there's a pesky Dallara in the middle of the racetrack, and Dan Human, absolutely everything that he can, he's trying to deploy here and now, but Molina is the equal to every single opportunity. This is a great defensive drive from the car in 7th position.
Do you know what? I'm not sure it is. I think Human makes a mistake there. I think he was perfect through turn number 1. He opens it up, gets a real nice run, and in turn number 2, he's got greedy. He's tried to make the move there, or he's tried to maybe try and force a gap, and then he's just run deep through that corner, and now the gap is so significant. With only 5 minutes 50 seconds, that might have been his only opportunity. He needed to be a bit more patient there, and if it, even if it was stayed right behind him underneath that rear wing for this entirety of, and then try and make the move down towards turn 1 and the next gap, it has to be. This is the race now. This is P1 to them. Is the P1 to them to get through to that final. I just think Human got a little bit away with himself, got a little bit too excited and tried too early.
And I think Molina did my favourite tactic, is slow the car down on the apex and make the guy behind go, "Ugh," and then worry about it. Whatever the end result was, though, it's worked out absolutely sterling for Molina. The comfort blanket that they needed coming into the final few moments has been delivered and will be used very nicely indeed. Sean Calland having a look at in 6th position, not seen much of the bright blue number 6 machine so far in this race. Having a quiet event, got a good opening lap, stayed out of trouble, and they're very, very comfortable. 7.7 seconds to Molina behind. That is pure and simply a mistake, and a mistake only can wrench that 6th place out of your hand. But again, racing driver mentality, sat in the commentary box up here at home, it's all nice and easy. Stroke it through to the flag. If you're Sean and you're in the car, you want to send a message to who ahead. You want to show, hey, I am as fast, if not faster than you. And when we come into the final, I've got your number.
Yeah, no, definitely going to be stroking into the flag for the rest of this race to try and get himself through to the next stage, into that final. And he's got a perfect gap behind him to work with now as well. The gap's quite significant, it's like 8 seconds. So there's nothing really to be too worried about apart from your own demons. So just keep it on, or keep it in between the mayo and the mustard, as they say over in America, and you're going to make a safe passage through to the next stage of this. But yeah, it's quite a good position to be in. A big gap behind him. There's also a car in front that's clearly quite quick as well. You can just sort of, focus on. If you're on your own on circuit, you've got no one in front of you, that's where mistakes can really creep in, because you start thinking about other things. But when you've got a car in front of you that is also equal to pace, and you're both negotiating yourself through quite nicely, it's not a worse position to be in the world. A gap now, by the way, is 1.5 seconds between Human and Molina. Molina did the hard work. You're right. Just maybe went through turn number 2 a little bit slower than he had done previously on this race. Completely caught Human off guard. And that is just very clever defending work.
Yeah, great stuff then from all of our drivers. Let's remember, 9 started this race, only 7 will make it through to the final. Following on, right on from this semi-final, number 2. Well, we've got an opportunity. Big shout out to AK Esports, to Dallara, AK Esports, and of course to the Emotion Sim Centre in Paris, where we're hosting this final. We're using their fantastic racing simulators. Would not be possible. All of these rigs for all of these drivers that have come all the way around the world. A beautiful facility. A big thank you to Emotion, to Dallara and to AK Esports, as well as the people behind the scenes that make these things happen, not least of which is drivers that have taken a lot of time out of their life schedules to head on over to the capital of love to go motor racing in a virtual sense, but in a physical location. How weird's that one? But great all the same.
And there was me thinking the capital of love was in our commentary box, Paul. Well, okay.
Always, my friend, always.
1.3 seconds now, the difference between P8 and P7. The golden ticket position is P7, and now 1.4 seconds. And yeah, Molina's just doing enough as it stands. 1.5 laps to go. Don't make any mistakes. And you can... But hold on, what's happened to Neugaze? So Neugaze is off the circuit here somewhere. He's dropping down the order. QA goes through, Callan's going through. I'm not sure it's going to be enough for Molina or Human to really get involved here, but he has dropped down significantly then, so was comfortably in P4, now down to P6, and that is how simply and how easily a mistake can happen, and that's how easily a race can be over.
And for Gayton, of course, only 1 minute 47 seconds left on. Fresh off a mistake before jumping into an exponentially faster and more difficult car in a final situation is absolutely not the mental place that you need to be going into the world final. So Gayton Noye has a little bit more pressure perhaps than those around him rested on his shoulders. Marcin Sviderek, though, the only pressure he has is keeping his eyes open. It's been a long day, he's probably a little bit bored waiting around, and he's had a motor race been, well, frankly, not even been a motor race for Marcin, has it? It's been pure, unbridled domination. Position, great yacht launch off of the line, and not even remotely challenged at the head of the pack.
Yeah, but in terms of his little battle with Castorino, which is a psychological battle, I guess it's still a battle with the time. He is faster. He's a little bit faster in terms of his lap time. Moaning, by the way, similar pace to Castorino as well. So there is a genuine 3-person fight starting to form. It is a different car, though. That is something I have to express. As much as, you know, we can go by the form of the first 2 semi-finals, I say the first 2, the only semi-finals, of course. In the final, it is a different car. There's an added variable to this. So in terms of who's going to go out there and win it, becomes a little bit more close than we can predict.
Exactly, that's the kind of situation now. If you're the likes of Anthony Molina and you've got no stress, you kind of learn about the car, learn what it can do underneath, get some more experience. Well, irrelevant for our world final coming right up, because we're going to be upping the ante somewhat with the Dallara EXP. Same car, same 2.3 litre turbo-charged engine. It's been boosted to around 500 brake horsepower, so another 100 horses under the hood, 290 kilometres straight line speed per hour. It's an absolute beast in real life and in virtual form here in Assetto Corsa as well. That's coming up for our drivers though, but for Marcin Sviderek, only thing he's about to see will be the virtual checkered flag. It has been well and truly categorically domination the Polish driver, and he won his victory in semi-final number 2 here at the Dallara Esports Championship 2025 World Finals in Paris. Michael Monin will cross the line in second position. Simone Seminara will round out the podium finishers, and then all the way down to Daniel Human, first driver, fails to make it through alongside Cornalba. Thank you very much for your participation even, but for those two, it's going to be an early bath for sayonara.
Yeah, going to take a bit of cash though, of course. You know, the packages they're going to receive from being at the finals. And one thing I will say here, Paul, is that you can never take that away from them. So making a LAN final can never be taken away from them. There are people watching from their families, their friends, and they've just witnessed them racing in a LAN event. And there are only so many sim racers that ever get that opportunity. So yeah, fair play to them.
Yeah, absolutely. Anybody who's made it here is a champion. To get to this point has been incredibly difficult. It's difficult in terms of logistics. It's difficult in terms of competition. And yeah, okay, you don't make it through to the finals, but you've had a life experience that many of us never will get to have. I've always been alongside success, but never had my own. And it's wonderful to share in those people's experiences. It is, you've said it's a life experience to come all the way, sometimes, first time they've even been to Paris, get to see a beautiful part of the world, and go virtual motor racing and have us two clowns talk over the top of their performance. Not a bad day out, is it?
No, they've definitely had worse days, that's for certain, as I've mentioned a couple of times. And of course, you've had your success. Remember the first time you were at the racetrack or the first time you had a LAN event? You know, I was doing a relatively normal job before this. I was an engineer for 15 years, and now I get to do this. So this is our success, right? Doing a passion as a job, which is quite ridiculous, to be honest. You know, getting to go to events and commentate on these superstars as well. But, you know, being at the race circuit or a LAN event is just, that is our reward.
Yeah, no, could not agree with you more. We're very, very lucky boys and girls indeed. The reward for our good people watching at home, though, has been another incredibly entertaining motor race. I think we're going to go and hear from our winner in a few moments' time before we gear up for the final. Any thoughts from you, Luke, on... obviously, Marcin Swiderek, standout performance, but in fact, no, come back to that one. Let's head down to our race winner, Marcin Swiderek.
Hi, well done for this race. How are you feeling about the final? Are you confident?
I'm pretty confident unless I made a mistake in the final, because to be honest, this was easier to drive, and the car tires are easily overheating, so we must be careful not only with the other drivers but with ourselves. And I'm a little bit sick, I can hear, so I must keep my focus. But I'm pretty confident I can do better in the last race.
Great. And one more question. Who are you most afraid of for the final?
I think Amedeo Castorino will be tough opponent, but Manning from USA also behind my toes for the whole race, so we will see how they are prepared for the last race.
Okay, so good luck for the final, and see you at 9 p.m. to the final.
A very confident Marcin Swiderek then, even though he's feeling a bit under the weather. That's a dangerous proposition, is it not?
Yeah, I think being a bit sick actually sort of focuses you a little bit more. I think there's less things you're worrying about because you're just kind of like, I just want to get through this. So I'm not necessarily, I don't know, maybe that's just me being a bit odd, but I think that's not the worst thing in the world, especially when you're like not, you know, he's clearly sick, but not that sick, you know? So yeah, very, I don't know, I don't think it's necessarily the worst thing. I will say this, obviously he had to mention Castorina, but the fact that he's mentioned Moaning, who's just in behind him in that first race, he's obviously knows he beat him, but that says to me that he is worried about having a different car in the final.
Yep, absolutely. It's going to be nothing short of sensational, I am absolutely sure. And you, my dear viewers watching at home, you don't want to miss it. So if you're watching on AK Esports YouTube, or you're watching on Emotion Sim Center on Twitch, whatever the platform, come back again around 9 p.m. local time, 8 p.m. UK, and we'll go racing for one final time. See you in a minute. Take care.
This is the moment everything has led to. The battles, the mistakes, the victories, all come down to this. The margin for error, none. One race, one champion, one final truth.